Hey everyone!
Hello everyone, happy Easter! We hope you had an amazing time. For those that celebrate these festivities, for others that don't, happy public holiday. So it's good to have time off.
Yeah, we've been away traveling around Sydney.
Yeah, it was amazing. We actually went there to celebrate the release of this podcast. That's my excuse.
And just some well-earned time off, I think.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Thank you so much, Sydney, for just providing those good sceneries, good food, and good memes with my baby. Anyway, so we wanted to also give a massive thanks to our listeners for their feedback, their suggestions, and just for listening to us, guys. It's a big thing for us. So yeah, thank you.
You don't know how far it goes. So thank you guys so much.
Yes, exactly. On that note, we wanted to introduce this new section of our podcast.
Yeah, which came from feedback received from one of our viewers. So if you're listening, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
But it was brought to our attention that since we're speaking about STEM femmes, we're going to call that females in STEM femmes. Do you think that will catch on?
Yeah, I reckon. I think it's fine.
As STEM femmes, we talked about a lot of, in the first couple of episodes, how representation was a big deal for us and also how it's a big deal for young up-and-coming females in STEM, that we thought it would be a good idea to introduce one new STEM femme every week.
Yeah, that's right. So today we have Elisa Leonida Sanfirescu. I hope I'm saying her name properly, and apologies for those Romanians that are listening if it's not the right pronunciation.
So that's a giveaway where she's from. Spoiler.
So
No, but she was born in 1887 in Romania and was arguably one of the first female engineers in the world. So what a good way to start our first segment of this with one of the first in the world.
yeah, that's right. So let's go through her journey as a student. So she enrolled herself at the Berlin's Royal Technical Academy, and she actually undertook this degree for 3 years. So back on the day, apparently it was shorter. No idea how they managed, because it's a full-on degree. And yeah, it only took them 3 years. But we have to highlight that she was actually in Germany, because when she applied in Bucharest, she was rejected because she was a female. Sad. But she never gave up, and she kept trying, and she went to Germany and finished her chemical engineering degree.
Yeah, so she was quite pivotal in having to come up with new techniques for how to analyze and look at new minerals and like coal and copper sulfate.
Yeah.
Very interesting work.
Thank you so much, Elisa, for your contribution for women like them, the ones that actually had to go through all those tough times. We have made such a good progress, and we obviously have a lot of work to continue doing, but yeah.
It's all been possible to get to this level just because of them paving the way and making this, this whole journey possible. Because like, even though she had to move countries to be able to study the role in engineering that she aspired.
Yeah.
Unfortunate at the time, but doing stuff like that has allowed
women to be part of the industry and to continue work for the dreams. Actually, yes, good on her. Like, she actually moved countries to do this. Like, nothing has stopped her. She was like
in the 1800s. That's
she
not
was
even
like,
easy.
I was rejected. Who cares? I'm gonna go to another country, and you people
gonna watch me follow my dreams.
Yeah.
Literally.
And let's just take a minute to
bow down to her badassness. Oops,
yes,
sorry.
Agreed. Anyway, so today's subject, really important and really just, we're all passionate about this in this table here today. Identity. And how sometimes over-identifying with what we do, with our role description, is not as healthy as we thought.
Yeah, so it can have some pretty detrimental side effects that we will get to later on. But in order to get to the crux of why this is even an issue, because you might be wondering what the hell are you on about, I think it's important that we will first go through what is identity.
Yes, so identity is the unique set of characteristics that can be used to identify a person as themselves and no one else. So basically, identity is what makes us us. And this is actually a very deep question, the one about who am I? Even philosophers thought that it was hard and really interesting, but I get it. We want to know who we are in order to find out what to do with ourselves and
literally,
so on.
And it's existential crisis 101. Like, that is literally the crux of existence is split into two. Who are we and where are we going?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But without getting too deep into the philosophy of it all, we're hoping to just be able to identify what the two aspects of identity really are.
Yeah, so we have personal identity, which is actually the perception that we have about ourselves, and is shaped by factors that we can control, such as like the decisions we make, our interests, our belief systems, but also things that we cannot control, like for example our ethnicity, nationality, and our family. And then we have the social identity, which is pretty much how other people perceive us and what they think about us. And obviously we can't change that.
We have a little bit of power over it because it essentially comes from successes in a group setting, like, which is essentially your work or your hobbies. And that's, you know, your monetary rewards or your contribution in like a workplace to projects, that sort of thing. So we can't completely change how people perceive us, but we can definitely influence whether that's generally positive or generally negative.
Yeah, 100%, depending on how we behave. Anyway, so our identity is actually always changing. It's dynamic, and there's a few philosophical theories that can help us sort of like understand the word itself or like what it means and blah, blah, blah. So we have the theories like the body theory and memory theory. So the body theory says that we are the same person because we're represented by the same body. So sameness of body.
Yeah, so throughout our life, we generally, unless you have some Freaky Friday shit going on, we generally have the same body from when we're born to when we die.
Yeah, and then we have the memory theory, which is based on what we remember. So let's say that I remember everything that I did today, tomorrow. So then, therefore, I'm the same person. But obviously, our memories are a little bit, you know,
sketchy.
Yeah, we don't usually remember things like they actually happen, or we sometimes don't even remember when we do the following week.
In a general sense, your memories from when you were a child, growing up, and whatever, they define who you are and how you generally relate to things. So it's a bit like your psychological identity.
Yeah, like your conscious sort of thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
that's what they meant.
Pretty much.
But again, philosophical takes are a little bit more complex, and we just want to pretty much go in a very superficial level.
This is why it's dynamic, because our body goes through different changes and our psychology goes through different changes as we grow. We meet new people, travel new places, learn new interests, pick up different languages. You're constantly evolving as a person, which means your identity is also evolving with you. Yeah.
It's like, I feel like the more you go through different situations and different experiences, then you sort of like become a new person.
Yeah, so the reason why this is important, and you must be wondering, why have I signed up for like a philosophical lesson, is because your personal identity and your social identity are known to
contributes to your self-steam.
Literally. So that's what we were talking about before, like your sense of accomplishment in your personal and work sense, whether that's your personal relationships or your status and wealth and everything at work that you contribute, little successes, whether your projects went well or not, all of that generally goes on to pretty much become your whole self-esteem.
Yeah, so if you have been wondering what the hell is that I'm feeling a little bit sad every time that my boss says something about what I've done, it's because sometimes we tend to over-identify with what we do, the skills that we work on, and sometimes even our relationships.
But mostly work. And I think that's probably because outside of our homes, the most amount of time we spend anywhere is in our careers. So that's like 50% of our life. Probably more depending on how well you know boundaries.
And even that's so true. And even like once we finish high school, before we even have an identity for ourselves as adults, we have to actually make the decision of what are you gonna do for the rest of your life. So you have to actually start wondering what your purpose since that age is sort of linked to. And
that's unfortunately why I think a lot of times that's how we've ended up identifying that our work is pretty much our whole identity. And I don't think like it was actually meant to be that way. When people were asking that when we were little, like, you know, what do you want to be? They're probably just generally trying to get us to learn our purpose in life. Rather than just be like, oh, your job is everything you do. But it's hard to understand that as a kid, and it's hard to articulate that. So I think that question has now just made it seem like your work is going to define your whole self, so what are you going to do when you're older?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's kind of because, like, let's be honest, these things just started to make sense now with a lot of, like, improvements. Because in the past, everyone was just sort of focused on that. Like, what are you going to do when you finish high school? Like, how are you going to, produce wealth? But it's more than that. Our job is not just to do that. So let's go into the reasons why we do work as people.
Yeah, why do people force themselves into manual labor every single day?
Exactly. Why is that we actually have to get up every day?
Like, I'm fabulous, so I don't need a job.
Yeah, I'm already pretty.
I'm joking you. No, but why people work is pretty much, it comes down to 3 different things. One is gaining status, one is intellectual stimulation, and the last one is wealth. Not in the same order, but you get the idea.
Yeah, totally. So it's not that we are trying to say that you shouldn't actually be so passionate about what you do. Not at all. Because in reality, work is just, I guess, a guidepost to, achieve that that sense of purpose, of that reason why you're here on earth, like to get that fulfillment. That's sort of like why you choose your job in the first place.
Yeah, like if you weren't interested in it and it didn't like align with your values, you probably wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So what we want to really emphasize on is that before choosing what you want to do, for those who haven't made the decision, or even for those that made the decision but are a little bit unsure or are second guessing yourselves, is the first thing you want to know is know your values. Then you want to know and find out what your purpose is, and then work towards how you're gonna get there. So once you have your purpose, then you would have an identity, a character that's gonna play this role in this movie and is gonna get you that end goal.
And yes, it sounds very philosophical again and, soul searching, but that's kind of what it is. And there's a lot of studies done on this as to why this is important and how this, eventually goes on to influence your life. So an interesting book I was reading is called Drive by Daniel H. Pink, and that he definitely gets into the nitty-gritty of this because it literally, as the book suggests, it's about drive and what makes people motivated to do what they do. So they looked into 2 different types of people, extrinsically motivated people and intrinsically motivated people, type X and type I. And they found that while, yes, wealth and status are motivators for some, it generally leads to like less happiness, but also they're not usually as successful as people that are intrinsically motivated. So these type I people are the ones who literally know what they want in the bottom of their heart and are able to use that every day to power why they work, what they do, and irrespective of what comes their way, they're able to achieve success. And usually they've noticed eventually in life they will be much more even monetarily successful than type X people.
Interesting. This can be also applicable to other things that we might be doing. Like, for example, if you have a goal of like becoming more active with exercise, you actually have to understand why is that you want that, being a physical sort of reward, or just being active for mental health purposes, or just for like the longevity. So once you know your why, then you can actually get your ass off the couch and start actioning those things. You can go to the gym, go for a walk, whatever it is. But if you don't have a why, you're just gonna attack yourself with you're a lazy person, you're not doing anything, because you don't actually have something that motivates you. And I would say that motivation is something that is not available every day for humans, so there has to be something bigger than that.
And I love that example, really good example, Lau, because literally that is such a good segue into, not segue, but it really can be demonstrated, the type X and type I thing. So if an extrinsic motivation is just, I want to look good, and the physical aspect of it, that's not necessarily enough, as opposed to someone who looks at this as a lifestyle, as their day-to-day thing, to focus on their mental health and their general functionality. If they know that they work optimally because they work out, that's more of a motivator every day than someone who just wants to look a certain type of way.
Yeah, also for those, I respect everyone's goal, by the way, but for those that want to look good all the time, they also have to remember that beauty is not forever and is going to go. It's the same with money. Like, what if something happens and then you lose it all? So you have to be prepared for those moments, because obviously we don't want to go in identity crisis.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely think about the purpose and those values in your life,
Yeah.
and find out, are you actually in alignment with them?
Yeah.
Write them down, look at them every day, and try to do your best to keep following them in your life.
Yeah, because essentially work is just what we do. Is one of the multiple identities we have as a human being. And
Yes.
otherwise, if we just make that the whole center of our lives, we're going to end up with depression, with we're going to be addicted to substances that are just going to help us numb the pain.
And that ties really well into this quote by Ann Wilson, who states that if you tie your self-worth to your career, the successes and failures that you will experience will directly affect your self-worth.
Yeah.
And we can see this a lot in stories where you hear about like professional athletes, such as the Olympians, gold medal Olympians, who later on, when they're done with that career, they don't know what else to do with themselves.
Yeah.
And I know it's a bit of an extreme example because you only have like 27 years to be competing, so it is your whole life for a certain amount of time. But the ability to understand your values and yourself outside of that job description allows you to basically steer yourself away from that negative mental health aspect of it. And you see this a lot like with high performing jobs as well, like lawyers and in the finance industry as well, that when unfortunately if the people get laid off, or if something untoward happens, you know, injury-wise or whatever, then usually...
Like, for example, a pandemic, and you get laid off.
Good point. Forgot about the big elephant in the room, the pandemic. Yeah, like, unfortunately, people, there's...
They lose themselves.
Yeah, literally. And
it's
they
really
commit
hard
suicide as well, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, because I feel like their self-belief just go to, like, negative. It's so hard. And I was listening to an interview of a rugby player that said, like, he celebrates everything in his life. Like, it's so important for him just to score a try as to just do the laundry on the day that he was doing the laundry. So he was just like, by that little example, he said that it's not just the big wins that have to be celebrated, it's everything. And I think we sometimes underestimate how much we do in a day, just because we're so focused in that identity of like, yeah, I'm the best player, or I'm the best engineer, I'm the best accountant. But in saying this, we don't want to dismiss or disregard anyone's feelings of emotions. Obviously, being laid off or having an injury, it's really hard. It's really hard news to take in, especially with things like, yeah, there are just things that we cannot control. There are just situations that life brings us. But what we can control, as we know, is how we react to these things. So how quickly we stand up and continue going. And those are pretty much the tools that we want to provide to you guys. So some of these tools are boundaries, first of all, my best friends for everything, not just for this sort of like relationship with work, but with everything. When the pandemic happened, I feel like boundaries were something that were a little bit blurred for those who work in offices. We all had to work from home, and for people, as myself, for example,
happened to me as well.
I used to, I live in an apartment, and it was a small space. Like, I'm fortunate to have had an apartment even for myself. Other people were living in their rooms. You know, it was really difficult, so they had to like get up and stand up to the desk. So the physical boundary wasn't even there. So it's important to establish those physical and also mental boundaries. It's not good to overwork yourself from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. No, there has to be periods for you to have breaks, and also stick to your hours of work. And if you can do your work in less hours, perfect. And communicate that to your boss as well, so they keep you productive for those 8 hours and you're not wasting time. But yeah,
and that's not to say that, you know, there's nothing that, you know, people are so passionate about that they want to keep working for long hours. That definitely happens. But I think for extended periods of time, to try to explain how these boundaries work, for extended periods of time, if you're talking to people, or if you're thinking about yourself and all you can think about is, yeah, I'm going to be working, I'm working, what are you doing, I'm working, then definitely I think your boundaries have been a little bit violated, and you need to start considering who are you outside of your work and start to get in touch with that again.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be so important even for your work in general, what you do, because we know a more holistic person who has varied interests, like, you know, different languages, music and stuff, they bring a lot to the workplace as a different perspective. But also then you're more comfortable in yourself, so you're able to provide more to yourself and your work.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's also important to highlight that if you are working more hours than expected, then these are red flags that have to be pay attention to. Like if you're a person that is taking longer in doing a task, maybe reevaluate and be like, okay, how can I do this more efficiently? Ask your peers, or ask yourself whether the training that you've been giving is the right one. So as a leader, be open to, I guess, understand why other people are taking longer in whatever they are doing. It's not just the person who's doing the task's fault. Or, well, fault is a big word, but I mean, like, yeah, are we providing our teammates with like the right training, or why is this taking so long? And not from a critical or like from a criticism point of view, because at the end of the day, we're all teammates, you know, we want the best for everybody, but it's a way, how can we help each other out? So I think it's important to pay attention to those red flags.
To set up those boundaries and practice different hobbies is very important, like we talked about just before. And I see that a lot at work, is why I can talk about this as well, because even though we are engineers and we do that, you know, for majority of our work, I get to talk to a lot of people every day in the office who are like literally like into sport or into music or into like so many varied interests.
Podcasts.
That too. So that like literally, and you hear that and you understand that people are so much more than what they come and sit to do at a desk every day.
Exactly, and good on them to work on those different things, because at the end of the day, imagine if we were just like focus on what we do those 8 hours, like we wouldn't be as.
But definitely happy. Master your craft, even whatever you're doing in your 8 hours. That's definitely, and that's where we get into like, you know, learning from your bosses if there's any more efficient way to do that, because that will help you on your route to mastery.
Yeah, exactly. So apart from boundaries, I feel like, yes, as you said, hobbies are really good. So focus on that. If you are dreaming about work, maybe you need a hobby. Honestly, that was the best comment I once received by a coworker. Wow. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, mate, like I have been actually figured this out to the point that I went home and I had a dream of work. And the guy was like, mate, you need a hobby. And it's true, like sometimes we take these things so like we over-identify with solving these puzzles at work, and it is nice. Oh yeah, like you are so passionate about what you do, but if it's not letting you rest at night, maybe wonder if you could implement some boundaries.
And then number 4 on that list, after learning your values, but we've talked a lot about values, so I'm sure you guys get it by now. So number 4 is get a good grounding routine. So that in essence is your, you know, your morning routine, or just your general routine, which can involve things like meditation and walks and just things that get you out of that headspace of work, but into your self.
Yes, exactly. Things that ground you. Also, walks are really good. It's because of how your eyes behave when you're walking.
I think like when people work at computers every day, you're only using your near vision, I think it is. And so you need to like, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, that after like certain periods of time, like every hour or so, you need to focus on looking at something very far away, because otherwise it's detrimental for your eye health. It's a bit of a health hack there. So that's why walks are really good.
Yeah. So if you ever feel like you're stressing at work, just go for a walk and make yourself feel grounded. Important. But okay, yeah. So apart from your good grounding routine and learning about your values, boundaries, and hobbies, we also have to focus more on knowing your why. And once you define your why, then you have it all, darling, and go and chase it. But let's not forget how good it is to have a support network. Because sometimes
100%.
Because sometimes we can't even see the symptoms, you know? It's really important to have someone's comments or opinion on the matter. And it's really good if we are supportive with each other. If a friend of yours or a co-worker of yours can pick up on how much this, or like how big of a deal this is to you, they can come to you and say, okay, look, you need to spend less time at work. Maybe working all these crazy hours, it's good because you really enjoy it, but there's more, you have a life, man.
Yeah, or you're becoming irritable or something, like someone who can, like, you know, point out what's going on. And even like for people that go through the downturns of, like, losing a job or having trouble in their personal life, your support network is the most important in getting out of that situation, or even for your mental health. So definitely know your support and who these people are and how they help you get going, and get in touch with them.
Don't be afraid of like being vulnerable to them, or even don't be afraid to provide good feedback. You know, it's not, I always say, like, feedback in any shape or form is very positive. Just be careful with the delivery that you have, because that is gonna help them understand where you're coming from. If you have a really nice delivery, then it's all easy.
But even don't take it all on board. You have to definitely think about the believability of where that feedback's coming from. Like, do they know you enough that what they're saying is true? But
that's very, thank you for highlighting that.
But also it's super important, and I think what might be a really cool exercise is that if you reach out to this network and ask them pretty much why they have you around, sort of thing. Like, it's a bit of a vulnerable thing to do, but it would be quite useful for you to understand where your social identity currently lies.
Yeah, that's so true. And that really helps you with identifying what your values are, if you have never wondered what your values were. I think it's a really healthy exercise, because sometimes you can even see things that you didn't know about yourself. Like, for example, I don't know, in a negative aspect, maybe you weren't as respectful with other people's time. So now, if you want to change that about yourself, maybe just work on good habits to have to create that new identity of being a punctual person. So I think it's really important. But apart from feedback and support, it's good to just have people around just to do other activities. You don't actually just have to have people from work supporting you and having your back, but also your friends from high school or from your crafty team. I don't know, like the sports you play, go out with them and have a laugh and have some drinks responsibly, or don't have any drinks if you don't drink, but do something that makes you happy and gets you out of your routine, because that is very important. That keeps us grounded too. Even if you are a very organized person and a structured person, sometimes even getting out of that routine helps you and motivates you and
gives you perspective.
100%. Okay,
that's a wrap from us.
Is it?
Yeah, that's it. We made it to the end.
So I guess let's just go through let's just summarize this, because we did go into a lot of detail, and because we have been recording this for 30 minutes, we're speeding like Speedy Gonzalez. So let's just go through it. First of all, we talk about what identity was and why we do what we do.
And how identity makes up your self-esteem, and how it's important to not over-identify your entire sense of self with the work that you do, because it's got negative impacts, unfortunately. And the 6 ways that you can manage this is by 1, practicing hobbies.
Yes, boundaries at work.
3, learn your values.
Good grounding routine.
Know your why.
And your network. Absolutely, your network is key. Being your family, partners, friends. Anyone, even your neighbor. Thanks, neighbor.
So if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Thank you so much, baby boys and baby girls. STEM peeps. I like that one. STEM peeps is good.